My fiancé cheated and lied, destroying everything I believed in. Toxic love, manipulation, and heartbreak pushed me to my limits. This is the true story of survival, escape, and reclaiming my life after years of emotional pain. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. More unbelievable stories are coming your way soon. Now, let's begin. I met my fiancé, Lucas, 2 years ago. From the very first day, everything seemed perfect. He was charming, attentive, and knew exactly what to say to make me smile. I felt like I had found someone who truly understood me, someone I could rely on completely. We moved in together within 6 months. Every morning, I'd make coffee while he got ready for work. Evenings were spent cooking together, watching movies on the couch, our hands intertwined, hearts beating in sync. Life felt simple, peaceful, and full of love. I imagined our future constantly, our wedding day, our home, trips abroad, children laughing in the backyard. Everything seemed perfect, almost too perfect. Lucas's family adored me. His mother always smiled warmly whenever I visited. His father included me in family conversations, and even his younger brother teased me playfully. For the first time, I felt like I truly belonged somewhere. But little did I know, behind the warmth and charm, the first cracks in the illusion were silently forming. Slowly, I began noticing small changes. Little things I had ignored at first now felt heavy. Lucas started working late nights more frequently, claiming extra projects at the office. His phone, once casually left on the table, was now always face down, notifications hidden. Sometimes, when he thought I wasn't looking, I caught him smiling at his phone in a way that made my stomach twist. I wanted to trust him, but a small nagging voice whispered that something was off. I tried to dismiss it. He's stressed, I told myself. Maybe he's just busy. But doubts didn't vanish. The evenings we used to spend together, laughing and planning our future, became quieter. Conversations felt forced. His laughter sometimes seemed rehearsed, as if he were hiding something behind a practiced smile. One night, I noticed him tense as his phone buzzed. He quickly silenced it and turned away. I felt a pang of fear I hadn't expected. My mind raced. Was he hiding a secret? Even more unsettling, Lucas started criticizing small things about me, things he never cared about before. My cooking, my choice of clothes, the way I organized our apartment. I tried to brush it off as stress, but the pattern was growing. The warmth and charm that had once made me feel safe were now slowly turning cold. The first shadows of doubt had crept in, and for the first time, I realized that the perfect illusion of our love might not be as real as I thought. The unease I felt turned into suspicion. Lucas became secretive in ways I hadn't imagined. He started taking calls in another room, leaving his messages unread in my presence. When I asked casually, he'd smile and say, "Just work stuff, don't worry." But the tone in his voice was different, strained, almost guilty. I began noticing patterns. He would disappear for long periods, claiming errands or late office meetings. Sometimes when I passed by his phone, I caught glimpses of notifications with names I didn't recognize. My heart would race. One evening, I decided to confront the growing anxiety inside me. I asked, "Lucas, is there something you're not telling me?" He paused, avoiding my gaze. "What do you mean?" "I don't know, it's just, I feel like you're distant, hiding something," I admitted, my voice trembling. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I told you, it's just stress from work. I can't explain everything." That night, I couldn't sleep. The images of his secretive behavior played over and over in my mind. I remembered our early days, how open he had been, how our love seemed effortless. Now that transparency had vanished. Days later, curiosity got the better of me. I found his phone unlocked when he left it unattended. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. There were messages, sweet, intimate messages from a woman named Emily, words that belonged to a secret life Lucas had been hiding. I miss you. Can't wait to see you tonight. Are you sure he won't find out? Each line was a dagger, twisting deeper than I expected. The next evening, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Lucas returned home, smiling like nothing was wrong, but my heart was pounding. I grabbed his hand and led him to the couch. "Lucas, I saw your messages," I said, my voice trembling but firm. His smile faltered. What messages?" "The ones with Emily," I said, holding his phone up. "All those texts, late-night calls, everything you've been hiding from me." Lucas ran his hands through his hair, his eyes darting around nervously. I can explain," he began. "You can explain?" I repeated, my voice rising. "Lucas, we've built a life together, or at least I thought we had, and all this time you were living a double life?" Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to cry in front of him. "Why, Lucas? Wasn't what we had enough?" He looked down, ashamed. "It's complicated. I didn't mean for it to happen. I felt something missing. And she was there." I laughed bitterly. "Missing? Missing what, Lucas? Trust? Loyalty? Respect?" He opened his mouth to say something, but I cut him off. "I can't do this anymore. I can't be someone's secret while pretending everything's fine. I gave you my heart, my trust, and you shattered it." The room was silent, except for the hum of the fridge. He reached out for me, but I stepped back. "I need space. I need to think about what comes next. Alone." He nodded slowly, regret written all over his face. For the first time, I saw the weight of his choices reflected in his eyes. But seeing him regret it didn't erase the betrayal. That night, I packed a bag and left for my sister's place. Every step away from our apartment felt like leaving a part of myself behind, one I wasn't sure I could ever reclaim. The following days were heavy, suffocating. I stayed at my sister's apartment, the walls familiar yet comforting. Every memory of Lucas lingered like a shadow. His laugh, the way he used to brew my morning coffee, his hand brushing against mine absent-mindedly. Every little thing now felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I avoided my phone, refused messages from him, ignored calls. Each notification made my heart race, fearing it was another excuse, another lie. Friends reached out, concerned about my silence. I nodded, forcing a smile, but inside, I was unraveling. Work became mechanical. I poured myself into every task, every report, every meeting, just to distract myself. Colleagues noticed my distant gaze, my quiet demeanor. "Everything okay?" someone asked. I forced a nod. "Yeah, just tired." Nights were worse. I would lie awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every word, every smile. The betrayal gnawed at me relentlessly. I questioned myself. Was I too naive? Too trusting? Could I have seen the signs earlier? One evening, Lucas sent a message. "I know I hurt you. I can't take back what I did, but I swear I never wanted this pain for you." I stared at it for minutes, my fingers hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to reply, to hear his voice, to feel some closure. But another part knew that replying would only pull me back into the storm. I deleted it. Tears streamed silently that night, but amidst the sorrow, a small voice whispered, "I need to survive. I need to rebuild. I cannot let him control my life anymore." A week later, I decided it was time to face Lucas one last time. I needed clarity, a confrontation that would finally sever the invisible chains he had wrapped around my heart. I went to the cafe where we used to meet every Friday. The place was quiet, almost empty, a stark contrast to the chaos I felt inside. Lucas was already there, staring at his coffee, his expression unreadable. "I didn't expect you to come," he said softly, looking up. His eyes held a mix of guilt and regret. "I needed answers," I replied, my voice steady, though my heart thumped violently. He sighed, leaning back. "I know I messed up. I hurt you more than I can explain. I wasn't ready for everything. I took you for granted, and I let my selfishness ruin us." I listened, letting his words wash over me. I felt the twinge of old love, but it was quickly replaced by the reality of betrayal. "Lucas, I trusted you with my life. I shared my dreams, my fears, my soul. And you chose your own desires over us. I need to understand why." He looked down, shame shadowing his face. I don't have a proper excuse. I was scared, immature. I let temptation get the better of me. I never stopped caring about you, but I ruined everything." A silence fell between us, heavy and suffocating. I realized that this conversation wasn't about him or even about us anymore. It was about me reclaiming my power, my voice, my life. "I forgive you," I said, finally, "not for him, but for myself. Not for what you did, but so I can let go. I can't keep living in this pain." His eyes widened, a flicker of hope, maybe even relief. But I stood up, paid the bill, and walked away. With each step, I felt the weight lift from my shoulders. The storm inside me was calming. I was reclaiming myself. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of freedom. I knew the path ahead would be hard, but I was ready to walk it alone, strong, unbroken, and finally, at peace. The days after the confrontation felt strangely liberating. I didn't wake up with the heavy ache in my chest, nor did I feel the constant churn of anxiety. It was as if the toxic fog Lucas had created finally lifted, leaving room for clarity and healing. I started small, morning jogs, a new workout routine, and journaling every night. Writing my thoughts down helped me untangle the knots in my mind, confront my emotions, and slowly forgive myself for staying longer than I should have. I reconnected with friends I had neglected. Coffee dates, movie nights, and even spontaneous weekend trips reminded me of the life I had put on hold for someone who didn't deserve it. I realized that my world didn't revolve around Lucas anymore. I had my own universe to nurture. Work became a sanctuary. I threw myself into projects, brainstorming sessions, and mentoring younger colleagues. Each task completed felt like a step forward, each achievement a tiny victory over the lingering shadow of betrayal. One evening, my best friend Emma sat with me over wine. "You've changed," she said softly. "Stronger, more yourself." "I am learning," I replied. "It's hard, but I finally see that my happiness doesn't depend on anyone else. Not him, not anyone." Slowly, I began dating myself, exploring hobbies, traveling to new places, indulging in the little things that once brought me joy. Painting classes, cooking experiments, and long walks by the river reminded me of who I truly was. The nights were the hardest. Memories of Lucas, his whispers, his touch haunted the silence. But instead of letting them control me, I acknowledged the pain, felt it, and released it. Each time it became a little easier to breathe. By the time 6 months had passed, I could walk past the cafes, the parks, even the streets we had shared without my heart tightening. The life I had feared I'd lost was slowly returning, shaped now by my choices, my strength, and my resilience. I realized something crucial. Love alone isn't enough. Respect, trust, and honesty are non-negotiable. And if someone can't give you that, you have the right to walk away, even if it hurts. Months had passed since I walked away from Lucas, and life had slowly started to bloom again. The weight of toxicity had lifted, leaving me with a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in years. I realized I didn't need someone else to validate my worth. I had my own strength, my own voice, and my own dreams. One sunny afternoon, I decided to visit the art gallery downtown, a place I had avoided because he had mocked my interest in painting. Walking through the rooms filled with color and creativity, I felt a spark inside me reignite. Each painting, each sculpture reminded me of the passion I had once set aside for a relationship that never deserved me. I met someone there, a fellow art enthusiast named Michael. Not a fling, not a replacement, but someone who reminded me that there are people who genuinely appreciate you for who you are. We spoke about colors, brushstrokes, and favorite artists. I laughed freely without fear or doubt. For the first time in months, I felt joy without guilt. I realized that happiness doesn't come from someone else, it comes from within. Lucas had taken a piece of my peace, but he couldn't steal my resilience. I continued journaling every night, reflecting on my journey. I survived, I wrote one evening. I survived betrayal, manipulation, and heartbreak, and now I am free. The words felt powerful, almost like a mantra. Each repetition reinforced the truth I had come to accept. I am stronger than my past. I started reconnecting with family, mending strained bonds that had frayed under the weight of a toxic relationship. My parents noticed a change too, the way I carried myself, the way I laughed again, the way my eyes held a spark they hadn't seen in years. Evenings were spent cooking my favorite meals, experimenting in the kitchen, or taking long walks with my dog by the river. These simple moments, once taken for granted, had become my sanctuary. Months turned into a year. I had grown, matured, and healed. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer dictated my future. They were reminders, lessons in self-respect, boundaries, and the power of walking away from what no longer serves you. Standing on the balcony of my new apartment, overlooking the city lights, I whispered to myself, "This is my life. I am in control. I am free." The night air felt crisp, the stars bright, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled without hesitation. Life was not just returning, it was thriving. I spent the next few months focusing entirely on myself. No texts, no calls, no reminders of Lucas. My mornings began with meditation, coffee on the balcony, and journaling. Each word I wrote was a step further away from the shadows of the toxic past. Work became a sanctuary. I poured my energy into projects, impressing my colleagues and rediscovering a sense of purpose I had lost. My confidence, once fragile, grew with each accomplishment. I started saying no without guilt, prioritizing my peace over anyone else's whims. Occasionally, memories of him surfaced, his smile, his words, the way he made me feel both loved and trapped. But instead of despair, I felt gratitude. Gratitude for realizing the truth, for having the courage to leave, and for having the chance to reclaim my life. My friendships deepened. Friends who had supported me through late-night tears became my pillars. We went on hikes, art exhibitions, and coffee shop marathons, laughing until our cheeks hurt. Every laugh, every shared story reminded me that the world was full of genuine connection. I even began volunteering at a community center, teaching art to kids. Watching their creativity unfold, their eyes light up with pride, I realized joy wasn't something to seek, it was something to create. One evening, while journaling, I wrote, "I am whole. I am enough. I am free." These words no longer felt like a mantra. They were my reality. Spring arrived, and with it came a sense of renewal. The apartment smelled of fresh flowers, the city streets buzzed with life, and I felt ready to step into a future I could finally call my own. I ran into Michael again at the art gallery. Our conversation flowed easily, unforced, and filled with laughter. There was no pressure, no expectations, just genuine connection. It reminded me that relationships can be nurturing and healthy when they're built on respect and honesty. I also reconnected with my family, sharing stories of my healing journey. They listened, proud of the strength I had shown. The weight of judgment, the whispers of doubt, they no longer mattered. My voice, my choices, my boundaries were finally honored. In the quiet moments, I reflected on the journey from toxicity to freedom. The pain, the heartbreak, the sleepless nights, they had shaped me, but they hadn't broken me. I was stronger, wiser, and more resilient than I had ever imagined. Standing on the balcony at sunset, the city glowing beneath me, I whispered, "This is my life. I survived, I healed, and now I thrive." For the first time, I didn't feel the need to look back. The past was a chapter closed, and the future was entirely mine. I smiled, genuinely and freely, knowing that the worst of my story had ended, but the best was only beginning. Thanks for staying till the end. If this story touched you, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Until then, take care.